Okay, in this video, we're gonna talk about the second chapter in the book, The Psychology of Money, written by Mr. Morgan Housel. And the second chapter is about luck and risk, and how do they basically play a part in somebody's financial success or financial failure, basically. And the second chapter basically starts with the story of Bill Gates and Mark Allen. So in 1968, there were basically 303 million people who were the age of who were like the age for high school aged people. 303 million of them in the whole world in 1968, according to the UN. And about from those 303 million people, high school aged people, about 18 million of them were living in the United States, and from those 18 million people, 270,000 were living in Washington State, and from those 270,000, only 100,000 were living in the Seattle area, and from those 100,000, only 300 were basically attending the Lakeside School. And among those 300 people, two of them were Bill Gates and um, and Paul Allen, basically the founders of Microsoft, right? The reason that we are mentioning why they were studying in Lakeside School, because Lakeside School was one of the only schools at that time that had a computer. So one of the teachers at the school pitched this idea that the the just reading the books was not enough, and they could probably do something else to get the real life experience. So he pitched the idea that maybe they can lease a computer. So they ended up leasing this Teletype Model 30 computer, and they were using it with time sharing. I mean, they didn't had access to it probably the whole time, but they had some probably had some slots, time slots where they could use the machine. So um, so at that time, Bill Gates and his friend Paul Allen, they would spend a lot of time using that computer, and this was kind of an opportunity that only the kids studying at that school had at that time. Not even the university graduates had that much access to the computers, or they couldn't spend too much time using the computers, right? So the point is, when you have access to such things, when you have the opportunity to basically uh, uh, play with these things at such a young age, uh, then you have kind of like an advantage over other people, and that's what actually helped Gates and Paul Allen to come up with ideas of starting a software company, which we all know is Microsoft, and it's worth uh, over $1 trillion. Um, so, so you could say, like in this regards, Bill Gates and Paul Allen were actually very lucky because they had access to one of the like a very rare machine at that time for that time, basically. And uh, so so they were actually very lucky. But at the same time, they also had another friend, which was Kent Evans. He was also studying in the same school. He was also using the computer. He was also friends with Bill Gates as well. And both of them were really they were really hardworking people, like Bill Gates and Evans as well. And I think during during their time at the school, they were actually given the task to use the computer and come up with a solution for the class scheduling for the students. And since they were both smart and hardworking, they ended up um, developing that program, and they got a good amount of exposure uh, to using the machine. Uh, So Bill Gates says like him and Kent would probably have gone to the same college. They would probably have started the same company, Microsoft, and and they would still be working together basically. But what happened to Kent Evans? So Kent Evans basically was killed on um, on a mountain while doing mountaineering accident. He had a mountaineering accident, and he basically lost his life there. So the point here is basically he also had the same he had this also had the same exposure as Bill Gates and Paul Allen, but he ended up on the other side of the fate, on the other side of the yeah, exactly on the other side of fate. Um, so here, as I mentioned earlier, that it's basically 1 in a million. It was 1 in a million kid in 1968 who had access to a computer. And if you look at all the deaths that happen in the US um, due to mountain climbing or mountaineering, it's also 1 in a million. So there, you're lucky by being 1 in a million to have an access to a very rare opportunity, and on the other side, you're too unlucky to be in one of the million, in one of the million, in one of a million, to be killed in a mountaineering accident, right? So Bill Gates ended up on the luck side. He got lucky, and Kent got unlucky by being one of the million by dying on a mountain. So so that's the thing. I mean, Kent could could also have been like one of the founders of Microsoft, but I guess destiny had different plans for him. So the point of all this story is basically whatever we do, no matter how much effort we put into something, it's not the only individual effort that will determine the outcome. Um, that will basically determine the outcome. It's not just our actions. There are other factors at play as well. Could be luck, as with Bill Gates. It could also be risk, as with Kent. So the point is, whenever you look at somebody's success in finance or somebody's failure in finance, uh, we shouldn't put we shouldn't give 100% credit to their individual efforts in being successful or either unsuccessful. Uh, there is a certain amount of luck and risk involved in there as well. So, so the thing is, we have to give both of them their due respect. And whenever we're trying to judge people's financial success, both ours or others, it's never as good or bad as it seems. Um, So yeah, this is not the full summary of the chapter. This is a part of it, and there's going to be a part two of chapter two as well. So um, so hopefully see you in the next one. Bye bye.